Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell. You'll get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And when I'm not asking Bruce, hey, how big was Batista's? Well, you know. One of the things I like to do is help people save money. And if you're watching this video right now and you're in a 30-year loan, man, you're overpaying your single biggest bill and you may not even realize it. I want you to do a little experiment for me. Take your calculator out, multiply your monthly house payment by 360 payments. That's how many payments there are in a 30-year loan. That big scary number, that's your total of payments. You're looking at that number? You know you can do better. Keep more of your own money right now and go to savewithconrad.com. Or maybe you've got credit card debt. Man, it's not a matter of if I can save you money with that. Your average interest rate on a credit card is more than 20%. And by the way, all the interest you pay on those credit cards, it's not tax deductible. Whereas the mortgage interest, well, that is tax deductible. So if you owe this debt, it's up to you how to pay it back. Doesn't it make sense to get the cheapest rate possible and the greatest tax deduction possible? Find out how much money you can save right now for free at savewithconrad.com. You don't need perfect credit. Even scores in the 500s can be approved, and it's no cost out of pocket. But maybe best of all, we're licensed in more than 40 states. We can help more families than ever before. But how much can we save you? Find out right now for free with a quick quote from savewithconrad.com. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Something to Wrestle with Bruce Prichard. Bruce, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm living in the past. How are you?
Well, we're all living in the past today because that's what we do here on Something to Wrestle. And I'm so excited to be here with you. We're talking about Great American Bash 2005, 15 years ago in your Wayback Machine. And, I got to tell you,
wait. We're going to talk, Conrad.
Okay.
You and I are going to talk. We started a conversation off air.
Yes.
I was telling you about shit.
Yes.
And then I said, fuck it, man, let's just go. And then you said, hey, it's Conrad Thompson. And that's what he does to me, folks. He just starts.
Well, hang on.
Because I've got limited time. And when I say, okay, let's go, your motherfucking ass is ready to go.
Yes.
And so it's like, I say, let's go. And the next words out of his mouth is, hey, it's Conrad Thompson. And so anyway,
I'm just ready for that phone to go off at any minute. And you're like, I got to go rewrite something. I'll be right back.
What are you ready for?
I'm fine, but I'm ready for your phone to go off at any moment. And you say, I got to go rewrite something. I'll be right back.
Okay. But here's the thing is that anyway, we were talking.
Yes,
and I told you that I recently got Paul Bosch, his personal library in his office in his home. And I just received that and it was shipped to my house. 8,500 pounds.
4.5 tons or 4.25 tons. My goodness. That's a lot of stuff, bro.
Of stuff, of pictures, of statues, of last will and testaments.
How big's your goddamn house where you can just casually store over 4 tons of shit?
Is that 4 tons?
Well, yeah, it's 2,000 pounds is a ton. So yeah, you've got like a diesel truck of Paul Bosch's shit.
I got a lot of it, but going through it, I was, and so we'll just continue because I think some of our listeners might be interested in this.
Oh, I know they are.
But I found a book from 1913 on Karl Gotch. I've got Ring magazines from 1930s. And this shit's like in mint condition damn near. I've got the original pictures that Paul took of the High Chief Peter Maivia from the backside of all of his tattoos that adorned his body. It is absolutely just going through and seeing my handwriting on things and knowing, what certain things really were, and then going through and finding like pieces of Maui, I think I'm saying that the right way, in Australia, of green stone, I thought it was jade, but then I found a whole book on this shit, on this thing. And in like in the middle of the damn thing, you come across a piece of ivory. Yes, ivory from the early 40s and stuff, or in the 30s and 40s, hand carved. Just incredible. It's absolutely insane, and I probably haven't even put a dent in a quarter of it.
What are you going to do with it all?
I don't know. And here's like the cool thing, man. Paul was in World War II, and he was an infantryman, and he's got like all these Purple Hearts. I have all of his Purple Hearts, all of his awards in the military. He was the most decorated professional wrestler of all time. But I have his handwritten notes of battle plans each day, like his. I think he was a corporal, and he would, or a lieutenant. I don't know what the hell he was. He was in the.
Why did his family want to get rid of all that? I mean, I could see where
there's no one left.
Oh,
there's no one left. His son, Joey, is blind, and he, they wanted it to go somewhere where it would be appreciated. And not just, it could have all gone into a dumpster. But I wanted to make sure that, Joey, I've got his cards. I think we go back to 1977, all the way through the last WWE show that we did him. The way that, the booking books, and I've shown you these before.
Yeah.
But I got the completed set now.
But not only do you have the completed set, but if you were listening to our Houston episode, which is one of the sleeper episodes in our archives, you told the story that's famously where Paul maybe not screwed Vince McMahon around a little bit.
Oh man. Well, yeah, I've got pretty much all the business documentation and all the real documentation for the last several years of the promotion. A lot that I knew about, and found out some things I didn't know about. So it was very, very, very interesting. And like I said, I'm not even a quarter of the way through it. And there are ring boxing and wrestling magazines. Back in the old days, they used to do the Ring magazine, and half of it was boxing and half of it was wrestling.
Right.
So you had to fish to go in and find things that were of note. But some of the books, some of the autographs from Liberace.
And one of the
there is an entire box that was nothing but personal letters from George H. Bush.
Oh.
I have China from George Bush's inauguration.
And you got a lot of random stuff here. This is more than just wrestling. This is a guy's life. And
yes,
yeah,
everything. I've got an inauguration flag with a handwritten note from George Bush in it.
What do you think? What's Stephanie think? By the way, I mean Stephanie Prichard. What's Stephanie think of you saying, "Honey, be home Thursday"? I've got 4 tons of shit coming. We'll figure it out.
Well, I didn't know that it was that. I didn't realize
what it was.
That it was that much shit. Because I just blindly said, "Yeah, man, I'll take it." And
I imagine part of you agreeing to do this is just help a brother out, and it's a payday, and it's paying homage.
And I wanted to make sure that his son was taken care of for the immediate future, because they've fallen on hard times. And I said, you know what? Look, here we go. But it has taken up my entire basement, and my wife has like a path through all the shit. And she just asked me right before I walked in here this evening, like, what in the hell are you going to do with all this stuff? Because as you unpack it, it seems like it gets bigger as you unpack it.
Of course it does. Well, I mean,
Like-
I guess I'm curious. The next step will be to involve the help of Ben Brown.
Ben Brown actually helped unpack some of it.
I just assume he would know. Ben knows how to preserve things with the right people who can help you preserve things and just really sort through a collection. So I imagine, and me and you literally are talking about this for the first time, you're going to keep a lot of pieces for yourself, maybe donate some to some wrestling museums and whatnot, or maybe some will be used at future WWE events, or what
was that word you used a minute ago? The donut?
Huh? Oh, yeah. So no donating. I got you. I understand.
I like donuts,
All right.
obviously.
Well, in my head, some of this, there's only so much Bosch stuff you could have. And I'm sure there are a few wrestling Hall of Fames or maybe you just save it all for the WWE one. That seems inevitable at some point. I mean, fans have wanted it for a long, long time, and maybe the timing isn't right. And certainly it's not right now, but maybe one day, or at least I'm hopeful. Knock on wood.
You just want me to die, don't you?
No. What the fuck are you talking? What are you gonna? I mean, listen. In your living room.
That's my takeaway. Sometimes you have conversations with people and they ask, "What's your takeaway on that conversation?" That's my takeaway, Conrad. You want me to die?
No, I want you to not die. So I'd like to get this Great American Bash done before.
I got okay, and I also got like a huge Texas flag and big U.S. flag that like you put in your office, like on each side, big flag poles with eagles and shit that are going to go in my office as well.
Oh,
God bless Texas.
Those got to be in the backdrop, like for when you're doing your Zoom calls.
Right.
That'd be great shit right there.
Yeah.
Dude, it sounds like they moved his whole fucking house to you.
His office was built after the fact, and it was.
Oh, you said it was like
2.5 car garage.
Right? It was like untouched from the minute he passed until now. Remember we talked about this a while back, but it was all like everything sort of in the same spot it was.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. Have you talked to Vince about this? This has got to be something that he's at least a little interested in, right? Like that you just.
Well, I showed him pictures of it before I bought it and just said, "Hey, look what I'm getting." And of course he wanted it all. And I said, "Haha, I already got it."
Yeah. I'm sure that Hunter wants a lot of that stuff. He's a big wrestling historian too. And I gotta imagine that's up his alley too.
Yeah, I think he would go absolutely nuts to kind of go through some of this stuff. I am, and it's just so. The bad thing is having me involved in the unpacking because I stop and I just go through things and start reading things.
Yeah, well, you know what? Take your time. It's not like you're on a timetable.
I want it all done by the end of the night.
Okay, well, we better get going then.
Okay.
Congratulations, by the way, on your haul. This is it's a big moment for you, and we've talked a little bit. Go listen to the Houston wrestling episode, everybody. It was a great episode. It was a sleeper episode. It was one Bruce wanted to do for a long time. In that era, we put everything on polls, and it never won. And then we made it happen. And man, it was critically acclaimed. Go out of your way to check it out. Bruce was passionate about it, and when he is loving something, it's going to be good. And we hope he's loving talking about Great American Bash today from 2005. It went down in Buffalo, New York. 15 years ago today, July 24th, 2005, the last pay-per-view that had anything to do with Smackdown was the One Night Stand show back in June. Of course, you may remember the Smackdown and Raw rosters sat in the balcony to watch the action until the end of the night brawl. During that brawl, JBL, quote-unquote, shot on the Blue Meanie, opening up a cut that he had from a few days prior at another ECW reunion show. And longtime listeners know you weren't at One Night Stand, but there was some immediate fallout, or so it felt like, of the JBL Meanie thing. There was some big buzz online, and it resulted in quite a chair shot heard around the world on SmackDown. Was that just much ado about nothing in hindsight? I mean, these days, JBL and Meanie are on great terms. And is this just one of those misunderstandings, or what would you categorize this as?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it was one of those spur of the moment type things, and it ain't ballet. And sometimes things happen in a physical environment like that where everybody's going at it, and things can turn real on a dime. And I think it was a misunderstanding and a silly, horrible look. Not silly to Meanie, who got his head bashed in by any stretch of the imagination, but it was unfortunate more than anything.
We see Juventud Guerrero, Super Crazy, and Psychosis debut on WWE TV. After Crazy and Psychosis had already worked One Night Stand, we would see Guerrero defeat Funaki, indeed. And then Crazy and Psychosis would defeat Akio and Billy Kidman, all taped for Velocity. First things first, what was your experience with getting all three of these guys into the company? Juventud, Super Crazy, and Psychosis. They'd been on the market for quite a while, but here in 2005, it's finally time for the big call up. What's the sudden interest in these three guys?
Crazy had been, I'd known him forever through Victor Quinones, and we had used him at different times throughout several incarnations of Super Astros and some of our Latin market things that we've done. I knew him through ECW as well, and Super Crazy was one of those that you like so much personally, but then his talent spoke for itself. So Crazy was one of those, and the other two were, right place, right time, and looking to do something. So the moon and the stars all aligned, and it worked out.
Well, it's weird though that, you sign them after this big absence where they weren't on WCW TV or ECW TV, but you debut them on Velocity. I mean, that tells you a lot about where they're going to be, is it not? I mean, if they were
What's wrong with Velocity?
Okay, we'll go with that. But then you turn them into the Mexicools? Chat me up. First of all, you could never get away with that today. In hindsight, is that one of those regrettable gimmicks, or did you dig it and they loved it, or what can you tell us about the Mexicools?
Well, they did love it, and it was different, and it was something about them looking at their heritage and proud to be Mexican, and it was kind of cool. Hence the Mexicools. The rest of it was taking into kind of the stereotype and how I think that people would have thought we would have done it, and them embracing it and saying, yeah, man, we'll be, what they think that they want us to be. And the rest, as they say, is history. Definitely wouldn't play today, and don't know that even, at that time that it was the greatest thing in the world to do. However, when a talent embraces it and they're like, hey man, let's go have some fun with this, then that helps.
No, listen, no doubt. It seems like they were having fun with it, but the idea that these guys, who I fell in love with in ECW and WCW, are now in like coveralls riding a goddamn lawnmower to the ring. It's a little, what the fuck?
Well, they liked it.
Oh my God. Can you just admit, hey, we probably shouldn't have done that?
Oh, I don't think we should have done it at all. No.
Okay. On SmackDown,
and I also wish we'd only done Super Crazy too, because I think that of the three, not taking anything away from Juvi and Psychosis, I just think of the three on a global basis that Crazy was probably the most marketable of them all.
Why do you think that is? Is it the lack of the mask? I mean, I thought Juventud and Psychosis, when they were masked, had really cool looks, loved their stuff in WCW. And I admit, I felt like they were different characters. And I guess they were without them.
They were, and they were great. I'm just saying, as far as Super Crazy could work pretty much any style.
Right.
And could adapt to someone else's style. And Juvi and Psychosis worked a little more lucha style. You can't take away Juvi's charisma. Juvi had a shitload of charisma, man. But you had to work, in my opinion, Juvi had to work that lucha style.
Well, listen, I can't argue any of that. Super Crazy, very, very talented. Let's talk about SmackDown on June 14th, 2005. It features Benoit defeating Doug Basham, but JBL and his cabinet attack Benoit until Undertaker makes the save. a weird team, Benoit and Undertaker. The Guerrero and Rey Mysterio feud is going to continue. Serious business. This is an era of, shall we say, interesting creative. We just talked about the Mexicools. Now we've got Eddie and Dominic and Rey Mysterio. Another really bad idea, maybe?
Oh, no. And look, I'll fight for this one, and this one, I'll take all the credit and/or blame, however the hell you want to look at it. But this was something that was discussed with Ray and with Eddie, and it kind of came from Eddie Guerrero's book. Eddie had just had his book released, and there was a chapter in it about the time that Eddie and Vicky were separated, and that Eddie had a child out of wedlock. And he didn't really go into it that much more. It was a personal deal. But Eddie, that was one of his cleansing things that he wanted to get out there and talk about. So people kind of questioned it and thought, hey, what is this? And nothing more was ever really brought up about it. So in everything, you were seeing Dominic on TV from time to time with Ray, and we had seen Angie, his wife, on TV. It's like, what if you guys are all close, you're best friends, but what if there was that question? Could this be Eddie's kid? And we, looked at the time frame. The time frame wasn't exactly on, but Eddie wasn't that specific really on the time frame. He was vague on the time frame in the book, so you could jump to conclusions if you wanted to. And it's story, folks. It's soap opera. And you utilize what you have in front of you to mix reality with soap opera and try to bring the most out of it. So the idea and the question made sense to a lot of people. And before that, we talked to Ray and his family, because I think that was the family that would be affected the most. We talked to Eddie and his family. Everyone was on board. Everyone was on board with this, and they understood exactly what it was. This is a storyline on a television show. It involves real people. It could or could not involve real situations, but that's where the line is blurred, and that's where, you can make your own conclusions.
Speaking of conclusions, have you ever played Jump to Conclusions? Do you have one of those mats? It's a game.
A what?
Jump to Conclusions mat. Where you
don't
jump.
know what that is.
I'm going to get you one. It'll go nice with your Paul Bosch collection. We also see Randy Orton debut on Smackdown after being picked in the draft lottery, and he attacks The Undertaker to help JBL defeat him in a no DQ match. Seems like a natural marriage between Orton and Undertaker. Those guys still love working together, do they not?
Yeah, again, two of the greatest workers ever to lace up a pair of boots.
Well, let's talk about some guys who maybe weren't exactly. Mark Jindrak is working the house shows, putting over the likes of Matt Morgan. Where did Mark Jindrak go wrong, do you think?
I just don't think that Mark had the charisma and just didn't click with the audience. It's really that simple. Some work, some don't. Mark didn't work. And not for athleticism and really trying and having a desire to do so. But later on in his career, Mark hit Mexico. He was a monster heel, American heel. So he found his niche, made it work.
Let's talk about Matt Hardy. His music is going to play during an episode of Raw while Edge is in the ring. At what point did the shoot of Matt Hardy become the work of coming back? We've talked about it in long form, but briefly refresh our memory on how that became something that the crowd was doing on their own. And then you guys decided, let's Just go with it.
Yeah, and the audience, will let you know. They did. So there was a real life situation and an underground kind of rumbling, if you will, that we took and ran with it. Again, life imitating art, art imitating life. And when the two mix, those stories usually work out.
Well, it worked out. I think they probably had a little more life to it. We've talked about that enough, though, in the archives. Let's talk about something that we haven't talked a ton about. You're going to bring the Diva search back here in this era. Why? Who's pushing for this? Is this a Kevin Dunn initiative?
Well, the Diva search is, you're looking at a variety show and you've got a lot of different things and a lot of different segments to fill and different, as Michael Hayes would say, demiographs.
Oh God.
It was something in the vein of searching for talent. And during all this, yeah, we were searching for talent, but it was another way to do that and address it and get it out there.
The other thing I wanted to mention is we've got a European tour that's going to begin with Steve Austin as a special guest referee, and a tour that draws near sellouts the entire tour here because people are excited to see Stone Cold back in any capacity. John Cena is going to be on top of those cards facing JBL and Kurt Angle as well. And then after the bout, Austin would stun Cena before handing him a beer. I should mention, Austin's not a heel. I mean, this is just what fans want to see. And before the finish, he would even stun Kurt Angle. Talk me through the idea of bringing back, the biggest star you ever had. Do you think that was cutting the knees out from Cena? Is that putting the stamp of approval? What's the strategy, and how difficult is it to get, not John, but Steve to go across the bond here when he's not in the ring anymore?
Well, it's taking your hottest acts and trying to get the absolute most out of them. And Steve, couldn't work regular schedule anymore, but hell yeah, you can utilize him whenever you can and rub him up against Cena. It doesn't matter. The star appeal of Stone Cold Steve Austin, I think that he could have stunned the Pope and they would have cheered. Well, at least some people would have.
Vince supposedly announces at the Ireland show that this is where the McMahon legacy begins. How important is Vince's Irish heritage to him?
Well, Vince is very Irish. So,
well, what we know in wrestling is if he's very Irish, he's got a shillelagh. I mean, he's got all the gimmicks, right?
Okay. What self-respecting Irishman does not carry a shillelagh at all times?
Well, I didn't know that Vince did. Where does he keep it? Do you carry the shillelagh?
That's the secret.
Okay. Well, I know once
it's like, where are my Lucky Charms?
Oh God.
What?
I don't think Vince needs to hear you say it like that, buddy.
Well, how the fuck would you say it then?
Me Lucky Charms?
Me Lucky Charms.
Jesus.
Get Hornswoggle on the phone.
CM Punk in this era would sign with WWE, and Samoa Joe signs with TNA. This has always been fun for me because these guys had just really torn it up the prior year for Ring of Honor. And when that company, it looked like was going to go under, had a series of really long 60-minute draws, and people loved it. And there were title runs, and I feel like they really leveled themselves up and the company at the time. Fast forward 1 year, and they're making different decisions here. TNA's trying to make a run with their TV deal, and CM Punk is going to opt for the WWE. It's fun to sort of look back in fantasy book. You and I have done this before. Hey, what if Warrior goes to Crockett, and what if Sting comes to the WWE? Why didn't Samoa Joe go to the WWE back then? Was there no interest in him or his body type or his style, or why did Punk get the nod and Joe didn't?
There was interest in Punk. I mean, in Joe. And Joe chose to go with TNA. It's that simple. It was We did want both guys and looked at both guys, but Joe made the choice.
Do you think had Joe come in there, he would have been an Umaga type character in that era?
No, I don't. I think that Joe was different enough and still is different enough that I don't think that he would have been that type of a character.
I guess my question is, do you think he feared that may have been the way he would have been used, since historically that's the way most Samoans, with the exception of The Rock, had been presented?
Well, that's the way some have been presented.
Okay. There were others Samoans that I didn't know about that didn't do that?
Yeah.
Such as? This is where you listen.
Roman Reigns.
Okay, he came way after Bruce. Do you see the difference?
Conrad, I'm done with you already.
The SmackDown.
I'm done. We are like 8 minutes into the goddamn podcast. I'm done with you. I'm done.
It's been a while since we had a good fight. Let's fucking get into it. SmackDown on June 30th was taped after Raw, and Cena, Michaels, and Hogan are going to team up in the main event. This is the beginning of the Hulk Hogan Shawn Michaels program. We're going to talk about it, boys and girls. It's one of our most requested topics. And yes, SummerSlam 05 is on the docket. It's coming your way soon. Even though this has nothing to do with the Great American Bash, I do want to talk about how difficult was it getting those parties to agree to even work with each other at first. I know we're going to get the conclusion of the story at SmackDown, or not SmackDown, SummerSlam, when we do it here next month. But was there hesitation on either side about even entertaining the idea of working together?
No, there wasn't.
Great. Can't wait for it to fall apart on our next episode. John Cena has been drafted to Raw while he's the WWE champion on SmackDown, and Batista didn't move over to SmackDown until after he defeated Triple H in a Hell in a Cell match at Vengeance. Why the hold to move Cena for that long before before moving Batista? I mean, what's the rationale here? For a minute, you've got two champs on one show.
Well, keeps you guessing.
It really is that simple.
It really is that simple because it kind of it gives you something to talk about, like what the hell's going to happen now.
Right.
There's one without a champion, and it gives you, it's a built-in story.
JBL defeats The Undertaker, Chris Benoit, Booker T, Christian, and Muhammad Hassan in an elimination match around the 33-minute mark. Taker's disqualified at 8:43 after hitting Hassan with a steel chair. Hassan gets counted out. JBL pins Benoit with a DDT around 18.5 minutes. Christian pins Booker with a roll-up around 32 minutes. And then JBL would ultimately pin Christian with the clothesline from hell. And the stipulation is the winner becomes the new world champion. And moments later, Teddy Long came out and said JBL couldn't be the new champion because SmackDown had just drafted its new champion, and he introduced the world heavyweight champion Batista, and JBL is now announced as the number one contender. So this is Batista's surprise return to SmackDown after a 3-year absence. When a guy moves like this, a big star, one of your prime stars like Batista, does he view moving to this show as maybe a demotion? I mean, we've always heard that.
Why the hell would it be a demotion?
Well, because the perception, and perception is reality, is that Raw's the A show, SmackDown's the B show. And
that depends on whose perception you're counting. If it's,
amongst the talent, the show that's live, people believe to be Vince's baby, the flagship, Monday Night Raw. SmackDown is the little engine that could. It's doing fine, but it's taped, so therefore it's quote unquote less special. That's the perception from fans and some of the guys who did the work in the ring. You say nay, nay?
I say nay, nay. Nay.
My point is, did Batista view it as a demotion?
No, I think Dave looked at this as an opportunity to show his wares and shine on another platform.
Is there how much thought is given to not just the quote unquote brand, but fresh matchups? Like, all right, he's already worked with
lot.
all these guys. So we got to get a new crop of guys for him to mow down. Let's just move him to another night and line him up.
Yeah, that definitely helps. And there, regardless of sometimes what we want to think and what the perception might be, there is crossover on the shows, but also there's not crossover. So to the SmackDown audience, Batista was new. And yes, looking at that and looking at where we were, there is a whole crop of new opponents for Batista on that show. And that definitely helps.
Let's talk about the Asian tour to South Korea and Japan. Did you ever go to these tours in South Korea? I mean, what are your memories of being there? You've told us about being in Japan before, but I don't think you've ever talked to us about South Korea.
I've never been to South Korea.
Okay.
Not that I wouldn't go, but I have never been.
Smackdown was again taped after Raw. This is on that same tour. How draining is it on the talent to do Raw and then turn around and do SmackDown right away? I mean, it's got to ruin the crowds, right? Because they can't be excited for, 5 or 6 hours in a row. I mean, I know we test that every year with WrestleMania, but it does feel like they start to, for lack of a better phrase, peter out, right?
They do. It's a long time. It's a long time to sit there, and you always have to take that into consideration without a doubt.
What about the talent? Is the talent griping, or are they happy that it's just, hey, we're all here. Let's just get the shit done.
They could get a little gripey.
Yeah.
It's a long day, man.
Gotta be. Let's talk about the Blue Meanie again.
It just makes, not only the talent, but producers, everybody involved. It can be trying without a doubt.
I want to briefly mention the Blue Meanie situation again. Before we do, I want to mention Mind of Meanie as a new podcast. Blue Meanie's a great friend of the show, done a bunch of live shows with us. We think the world of him. If you like Blue Meanie or you like comedy and wrestling, check his podcast out. He does it with Josh Chernoff, another great guy. So check it out, Mind of Meanie. Meanie's going to wind up pinning JBL in that no DQ match we talked about earlier, where Stevie Richards is going to hit JBL with one of the hardest chair shots in the history of fucking chairs that most fans would perceive as being a receipt. And then Batista is going to attack JBL and hit a spine buster. Why the BWO here? I mean, you have Stevie and Nova. Why not just add Meanie and really make a go of the thing here?
I don't really know. I just think it was Meanie was Meanie, and Meanie had an opportunity to do something kind of apart from a group, and that kind of worked.
We talked briefly about the Mexicools a moment ago. They're going to attack William Regal. This is sort of an odd first pairing for the Mexicools, is it not? Or did you see how well it had worked, a few years prior with Tajiri and Regal? And you're like, man, we can put anybody with Regal and that shit's going to work.
That becomes a reality. Sometimes you try not to do that, but when you have someone that's as versatile and can turn pretty much anything into gold, you tend to rely on it.
Yeah. I mean, and listen, if you watch the program now, you see who, the company can rely on. They find themselves becoming utility players, for better or worse. We should also mention this is the era where things go bad for Muhammad Hassan. We've done a whole episode on this. I think it's one of our more underrated episodes. I hate to keep referencing this stuff, but there's so much to unpack here. Here's the gist of it. The Undertaker is going to pin Daivari, but he's attacked by a bunch of hooded men who choke him out with piano wire. It turns out to be really bad timing. In hindsight, probably shouldn't have made air. Ultimately, the decision is made to just let this heat surpass and do away with this character. It's a really unique story. We probably don't have to get into it again, because if you've been listening to our shows in order, you know the story. But if you want more information on this, go check it out. And by the way, The guy behind the character, Muhammad Hassan, now listens to our show. How about that, Bruce?
Well, of course they do. Who doesn't listen to our show?
How insane.
Well, okay, it was a little humble brag, but damn it.
No doubt about it.
We're entitled.
In hindsight, this angle is fucking insane. Is it not?
Well, I think that when you look through anything in hindsight, you can pick it apart all you want. I think at the time that it mirrored, it mirrored society at the time. And right or wrong, it was a hot topic, and it was something, look, no one ever in a million gazillion years, could think that, oh my God, we're going to do this angle, and then this horrible terrorist act is going to take place halfway around the world. Yeah, timing was shit.
It's really unbelievable when you go back and look at it. It's such a unique story. I can't recommend it enough. If you're new to our show, if you just discovered it, if you haven't heard the Hassan angle, or you thought, oh, I didn't care about that guy, go listen to the story. It's unique. Let's talk about something else that happens here right before this show. The WWE is going to release a total of 19 people, all of the damn Dudleys, Bubba, Devon, and Spike, Joey Giovanni, Kenzo Suzuki, and Hiroko, butchered that.
Bless you.
Matt Morgan, Charlie Haas, Jackie Gata, Marty Jannetty again.
Wait a minute. Marty? No way.
Don Marie, Mark Jindrak, Maven, Kidman, Shannon Moore, Akio, Gangrel, and Kevin Fertig, and Jim Cornette. Now, Jim Cornette is a different subject completely. We'll get to that in a moment. The names that stick out the most on here to me are the Dudley Boys. I mean, they had been such a big part of WWE with all of their crazy tables, ladders, and chairs. Why is the decision made to move away? Were they difficult to do business with? Did Vince not see anything in creative for them? Did he think they had done it all? They weren't versatile enough to split up? What's the thinking?
No, I think that more than anything, it was a timing issue. And, obviously the Dudleys during the time, massive contribution and were a hell of a tag team. There are times when it's just time for whatever reason. These decisions are difficult to make, and they're not made lightly. So when you're looking at it and you have to make cuts and you have to make adjustments, it's just not always the easiest thing in the world. And sometimes you have to do things that may not be popular, may not be seen by all, but they're necessary for business reasons and for business. There's times where you said, okay, you've got to cut 3 people or whatever. That's your mandate, and you may like everyone that you have and feel everyone contributes, but you still have to cut 3 people. Sometimes there's not a rhyme or reason to it. And it's always difficult.
I can't imagine, especially when you see a guy like Kidman, who we know has been a longtime contributor, before and after this. But here, just bad timing, as you said. Also bad timing for Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette is going to get cut from his role as big head booker of the developmental territory, Ohio Valley Wrestling. And the write-up says, after an incident where he blew his top and slapped a trainee multiple times. Of course, we know this started with the debut of Marty Wright, the jacked up black dude who lied about his age on Tough Enough, and they decided to give him a gimmick and hire him anyway. And he's the fucking boogeyman. And Cornette tells a hilarious story here, but the gist is they wanted all of the quote unquote extras and trainees to be in the crowd and quote unquote sell for the boogeyman, be scared of the boogeyman. And that didn't really work for the fellow who would go on to become Santino Morello. And he thinks this is hilarious, so he laughs. That doesn't work for Cornette. When he comes back through the curtain, he confronts him, and Cornette is fired up. Santino doesn't think he's done anything wrong. and it's written that he slapped Santino at least a dozen times right in front of everyone. No surprise, this gets back to the office. And as the story goes, that's a wrap. Is that pretty much the gist of what happened?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's Corny's version of it. You know, when you boil it down again to business, and the year being 2005, there are ways that you need to conduct business and ways that you need to be in how you handle things, and you can't just slap people.
Yeah, I mean,
Hell, you can't even yell at people anymore.
How does Cornette take that? Does it affect your friendship and relationship? You know, what's the response from Corny when he learns, hey, I'm out of here over this?
You know, I look, I was sad because I think that Corny had an awful lot to give back to the business. And I think that he was positive in a lot of the things that he did teach people as far as the history of the business and logic and storytelling within the business. But again, it is a business, and you have to conduct your business in a professional manner. And it's just not professional in business to be slapping people, especially in front of people.
Slap the shit out of them.
Slap the shit out of them all you want in private. No, that's not even good. It was just an unfortunate incident. I hated it. I hated it for a plethora of reasons. But I don't know if Jimmy had just gotten to the point too where he, maybe he wanted to get the hell out. Who knows?
Well, yeah. I mean, we've often heard that he was frustrated with the way things were happening and, the management style, and he didn't enjoy working with Johnny Ace. And so I understand eventually this was probably going to happen, but it happens in such dramatic fashion. What does that sound like when you get him on the phone?
God damn. Give me a triple cheeseburger, triple cheese, extra onion, double mayo.
I just imagine.
Motherfucker.
It sounded something like, well, goddamn, you can't slap these motherfuckers. You don't know how to slap him, Bruce? I slapped him because he deserved to be slapped, the stupid fucking bitch.
Times change, man.
It's just such a fucking shame, too, because that dude's a wrestling genius. We also hear that Brock Lesnar and Vince McMahon are going to meet. Famously, Brock Lesnar finished up at WrestleMania 20 the prior year, 2004. Tried his hand at the Vikings. That didn't really work out. What was the gist of the meeting? Was it just to catch up, see how things are going, test the water, or what do you remember the strategy being in the meeting here with Vince and Brock?
Well, look, Brock had gone out. Brock had done what he wanted to do. And I think Brock was weighing his options as to what he wanted to do next, whether it was going to Japan, MMA, or maybe something else. Son of a bitch is a mega athlete and probably could have done a lot of things if he put his mind to it. So this was just kind of what is there, what's next? What is there for me?
Let's keep it moving here, and let's talk about something else that makes the news. It's about Larry Mullen finishing up. What can you tell us about Larry? He's your writer for the company. Never met him. Okay.
Larry Mullen was his name. All I ever heard was he had lurch-like fingers.
Okay, that's a weird fact.
That's a weird fact. That's all I know about the man.
Lurch-like. Let's talk about Smackdown from July 14th. The Road Warrior Animal returns to save John Heidenreich from an attack from Eminem. Is this a Vince McMahon idea, or who else pitches, let's create another Legion of Doom Road Warriors? And even though Hawk is gone, we can find somebody else. What about this fucking Heidenreich guy?
Yeah.
Well, who pitches that? Is that no, don't tell me that's your idea, Bruce.
Oh, it's not.
Whose idea was it?
Well, it was basically, here's Animal. Okay.
Here's Animal.
You know, there are people that truly believe that you are just, no matter where you are. So like old Larry Mullen, whatever his name is, who spent 3 weeks on the writing team. I don't know how long he spent. He may have spent 6 weeks.
Yeah, you're
I'm
being
not
a smart ass.
sure.
I got you. Yeah. The point is,
I don't know how long he was a part of the writing team. I do know that in my experience during his time, I never once met the man. I never once laid eyes on him and was in the same room with him. But yet, for you to even ask me about him, it boggles the mind, because to people sometimes on the outside, he may have presented himself, or maybe he worked on another television show, and it's like, oh my God, this guy worked. Or to think that, well, you guys brought Animal in to make a Road Warrior with Heidenreich. It's sometimes you have a deck of cards,
right?
And you're dealt a hand, and you have to play that hand the very best that you can at the time with all the parameters. There may be a $25 limit at that table. Sometimes there's no limits. But you have to play the hand that you're given, and you have to make the very best out of it with what you're given. Now, if anybody else, plays cards, does better than you, then great. But if you've never played cards and you've never actually been in the game, I'm talking cards here, okay? Then you don't really know. And
that's why I'm asking, Bubba.
It gets crazy. I answered, Conrad. I about had it with you already. Again.
So you're putting
this is. I'm seriously. I'm about like
half hot, 3/4 hot, 5/8.
I'm a little over half hot.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I'm a little over half hot. I'm at about. I'm trying to think of what half is.
You're 5/8 hot.
Huh?
You're 5/8 hot.
Yeah. Yeah, you damn right I am. Don't you get me to 6/8 hot.
I don't think you say it like
that'd be 3/4.
Yeah, that'd be 3/4 hot.
Yeah. I know my math. I know my fractions. I know my ciphering.
Did you learn them in Bosch's books? Hey, so serious business. The Heidenreich idea, clearly a fucking terrible idea to recreate the Road Warriors. And I often feel like anytime you put the word new in front of something, it's going to be shitty. New rockers,
it's not.
New
it's
midnight.
New and improved.
All right. Give me an example of, so the new rockers were better. Al Snow was better than Shawn Michaels as a rocker.
You mean Leif Cassidy?
Yeah, my bad. Leif Cassidy.
Oh, that was awesome.
Seriously. You knew this was going to suck before you ever saw it, right? I mean.
Oh, so the New World Order sucked.
Shut the fuck up, Bruce. Why are
you said anything with new in front of it is going to suck.
You knew what I meant.
That's what you said.
All right. I'll admit I did like the original World Order. I didn't like the New World Order as much. I like the original World Order. Fuck off, Bruce. Heidenreich.
Why are you like snappy at me? You're Mr. Snippety.
Because I can never tell how much time I have. I haven't gotten to the show, and you're like wanting to be argumentative.
Well, you better wrap it the fuck up.
That's what I'm saying. Before we get going, you're like, how long is this going to take? I'm already in shit. And I'm like, 90 minutes. And now we're fucking splitting hairs about if you play cards and hypothetically you shuffle the deck. You don't understand if you didn't take the Joker out and you've got a royal flush, you didn't have a chance to play the cards. Shut the fuck up. I'm talking about cards. You're having a fucking meltdown, buddy. You sound sleepy. You sound tired. You sound stressed.
Oh, well, fuck. It sounds like you're just fucking writing headlines now, Connie.
Well, what else is new? Are you going to tell me about fucking Heidenreich?
I did.
Well, whose fucking idea is it? We want to send hate tweets. God damn it.
Hey, you know what? Since I've been texting, I tell you what, Brian Gewirtz. Let's just dump it on him. I don't know if it was or wasn't, but by God, give it to Brian.
I'm ready for it. I'm in. During this time, WWE starts running house shows in smaller arenas. They're drawing 1,500 to 2,000 people. What's the rationale to putting a show and a brand and this kind of effort on the road for 1,500 fans? I mean, you can't be making money there, really. Is it just servicing the brand and the greater good and hoping that they'll become more invested and buy more merch online and buy the pay-per-views, or what's the thinking here?
Well, it just goes back to the live event philosophy of what it is that we do, and to be out in the markets that you're promoting to. And, you know, television for many, many years was supported by the live events, and or the live event was supported by television. And one needs the other, and used to need the other dramatically. So that was the business model. The business model wasn't just to do television. The business model was to use television to run live events.
It's just remarkable that this company used to draw so many people to live events, but it does feel like the company is changing, and it's less about live events and it's more about the other revenue streams. I mean, when you first got into the biz, it was how many tickets did you sell? And then eventually, how many tickets did you sell and how many pay-per-views did you sell? But then the crazy licensing, and then, you know, the crazy merch, and it just goes on. And then television rights changes it all. But oh my gosh, we go public, and it's a whole new ball game after that, right? It's a totally different business than what you signed up with Mr. Bosch.
Yeah, the business evolves, and you have to evolve with it. But yeah, sometimes while you're evolving with it, you have to figure it out as you go along, because sometimes the audience doesn't even know what they want.
That's a little scary that you say that. Let's talk about Smackdown from the 21st. It's scheduled to have Eminem. Oh, that's that Rona. Face Balls Mahoney and Axel Rotten in a dark match, but Rotten wasn't cleared by the Maryland State Athletic Commission. First of all, how fucking dumb is it that we have athletic commissions patrolling pro wrestling? And second, what was wrong with Axel here? What happened? Do you recall?
I don't recall. I'm shocked that we would have even had him anywhere around the crowd, the card. But look, the athletic commissions, when you break it all down and you look at our business as it is, and people always blame Vince for, oh my God, he said the business doesn't work. Get rid of the athletic commission. You know, let's go back to Vern Gagne many, 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 many years ago, and going to Las Vegas, going to Colorado and different places and saying, hey guys, the business doesn't work. You don't need to govern us, because what we do isn't really sport. It's an exhibition. It's not real. And here was the guy, Mr. Ultimate Kayfabe and what have you. But when it came to not paying that 5% to the athletic commission, he was more than happy to expose the business. But he wasn't exposing the business. He was stating a fact and pointing out how ridiculous it was to have a, quote, authentic athletic commission appointed to oversee an exhibition, a choreographed exhibition, and collect 5% for what? All they did, 9 out of 10 of them, all they did was come in and collect money for licenses and collect their percentage of the gate at the end of the night.
I just don't know why it's still even a thing. I mean, just this past year,
don't either.
AEW ran a show in Baltimore, and Chris Cruz sent some nasty gram, and they had to answer to the commission. And it's like, I don't even know what that is or what they're doing. Wild. Why the heat with Axel? Why did you said, I'm surprised he was even near the card.
Well, because he wasn't the most dependable guy in the world, and he just wasn't somebody that was highly sought after. I don't remember him ever even being there. So,
All right, let's do a couple more things before we get into the show. Earl Hebner is fired for allegedly selling company merchandise without company permission, or at least that's the rap. And I've heard another version that says it was really just a major misunderstanding where they had like an embroidery hookup, or maybe they were in that biz, but they were making like shirts and hats for the guys and girls on the crew and not necessarily setting up shop and selling stuff. What do you remember about the Hebner's run ending here? Because they had been such a big part of the company for so long. I think this took a lot of people by surprise.
I remember being unfortunate, and it's one of those things. There are times where things happen, and you hear a lot of rumbling, and you hear a lot of rumor and innuendo. But I never ever really got a full story one way or the other from anybody. I do know that the Hebners definitely had a hookup with somebody that did embroidery, and guys had shirts and jackets and different things made with them. And I don't know how everything else developed other than one day, unfortunately, they were gone. And I think that Dave and Earl, both friends of mine and great guys, but I've never even talked to them about it in detail as to what actually happened. And it's just unfortunate because to me, they were two stand-up guys that I've always enjoyed their company. But it was just, sometimes you just don't know the whole story, and sometimes it's better that you don't know.
Well, I can understand that. I do want to ask one follow-up though. There's a weird rumor out there that at the time, I don't know why this would even be the case, he had some bloated contract that maybe he felt like Vince wanted to get out of. Like the rumor I heard, and I can't believe this is even a real number I'm going to say out loud, but that he was making like nearly $500,000 as a referee. And I just can't fathom that.
I've never heard that until those words just came out of your mouth.
Well, had you heard that Muhammad Hassan is going to become a banned character by UPN? I mean, that's where Smackdown is housed. He's a Smackdown character. If he can't appear on the show, that's pretty much the end of that character. Is it not?
Yes, it was.
Let's talk about another friend of yours who, unfortunately passes away. Lord Alfred Hayes passes away at only 70 years old. We've talked a little bit about Lord Alfred over the years here on the show. What are some of your favorite memories you can share about him? I don't know that we have enough to do a full show on him, but this feels like a great time to just share a little bit about your friend Alfred.
I used to love to go to a place by the name of Bugbee and Brownell on Route 1 in Norwalk, Connecticut with Alfred. It was kind of like a New England Applebee's, but it wasn't a franchise or anything like that. It wasn't as lit up as Applebee's, but I don't know why I compare it to Applebee's. But we used to go in there and have adult beverages after work back in the late 80s. And Alfred would always get, could I get a scotch, no ice, with a side of ginger ale? And Alfred would pour his ginger ale into a scotch. He didn't like it diluted. He never liked them to mix it. He liked to mix it himself. And we would sometimes imbibe probably too much. And one Saturday, Alfred called me at home and says, "Bruce, a question for you." I'm like, "Yeah." He says, "Do you have any idea where I might have left my automobile last night?" And I had no idea. And after searching, walking around the block and maybe a parking lot over, Alfred found his automobile that had been parked across about 6 parking spots in just some random parking lot that he found, and joyfully called me back to inform me that he had found his automobile. It was the ugliest light blue Lincoln Continental you ever saw in your life. But I enjoyed many an evening with Alfred, listening to his stories from the old days, and just talk about how much he despised Don Jardine when he managed Don Jardine in Minneapolis. It's just the way he would tell stories with his British accent was absolutely hilarious. And even at his ripe old age at the time, he was in his late 50s, mid 50s, late 50s. Good God, he was my age. No, but Alfred still could romance pretty much anybody in that bar and have meeting out the palm of his hand. So he was a unique, wonderful, wonderful man, and I loved Alfred, and he's missed to this day.
Yeah, it's a shame that we lost him. He was a part of all of our childhoods, especially if we enjoyed Coliseum video. It feels like he was the guy who introduced them all, or at least when I was at the height of my fandom. Let's talk about somebody who might be coming in. We've got the WWE in talks with Matt Stryker, and this is after the story of Matt Stryker taking sick time or sick leave as a teacher to work some wrestling matches goes public. What about the Matt Stryker story piqued WWE's interest? Just thought, hey, this is already mainstream. Let's double down and make something of it.
Well, we were using Matt as an enhancement talent anyway at the time, and Matt had a really good look about him, very well spoken, and was an interesting story. And because he was an interesting story is probably what led to him losing his job as a teacher. But Matt had been taking leave to go and do our events, and that kind of ended up biting him in the ass, but it was a good story, and we used it to our advantage.
Let's get to the show. Let's get to Great American Bash. To start us off, we've got Heidenreich and Animal working with Eminem for the tag team titles. This is indeed the opening match. He doesn't come out, by he, I mean Heidenreich, with the spiked shoulder pads and face paint yet. Animal apparently dedicates this match to Hawk. And of course, well, doesn't exactly work. Animal gets the hot tag. He runs wild. He's flying around, and Nitro's going to hit him with a belt shot behind the ref's back, but he's going to kick out. Eminem go for the snapshot, but Heidenreich breaks it up. And then the good guys hit the Doomsday device for the pin. The crowd's chanting LOD. The announcers were trying to put it over as a win for Hawk. Hawk would even be addressed by Animal in the ring. He says, Hawk, this one's for you, brother. And I guess it's a nice gesture, but just feels a little weird. I didn't love it. Your boy Brian Alvarez gave it 1 star. What'd you think?
About Brian Alvarez
Not Brian Alvarez, about the match, about Eminem versus Heidenreich and Animal. Eminem, such a great presentation at the time. I enjoyed Mercury. I enjoyed Nitro. Molina was certainly over, especially with, fans who like that entrance. Animal, a throwback sort of vintage pop. You know, you can get a big nostalgia pop. These are the guys who were famous once upon a time for the Road Warrior pop. And we know anytime you do some nostalgia, at least the first time out, it's going to get a big pop. And that happens here. Heidenreich in the mix. I don't know, man. It just feels weird, or at least for me. What'd you think?
Well, the crowd was chanting LOD. So that's a win. Yeah, it sucked.
Thank you. What can you tell us about Eminem? You know, we know that Nitro is back now. John Morrison, Molina's days with WWE are done, and Mercury had an on-air and then an off-air role with the company. He's no longer there. What can you tell us about their pairing in this era? I mean, probably a little underrated, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, they were. They were a great tag team, and they complemented each other really well. It was 2 young guys in Mercury and Nitro that were coming up, and one without the other at the time may not have worked, in my opinion. But that together they had a great charisma, and they really fit. So yeah, you throw Molina into that, and it was a hell of a package. So for me, I thought they were great, and both guys could definitely go. And I think that Mercury probably covered Nitro's greenness at the time, because John was still a little green. And Nitro covered that up and was able to make that. This is where a pairing like that really helps, because where Nitro had this just crazy, whatever, unexplainable charisma and way about him, Mercury could go in and do the fundamentals.
It feels like, I don't know, a feel good moment that they're looking for here. And it's maybe at the expense of Eminem, and we know it's not going to last long. So all's well that ends well. Next up, two guys who are trying to sort of find their way here in WWE, Booker T and Christian. Charmel's here, backing her man. It gets a 2.
You're not going to believe this.
What's that?
This is a sidebar. Literally, as I just made that comment about Nitro,
Yeah.
he texted me.
Tell
That's
him we
funny.
said hello.
Anyway.
Tell him that all the Something to Wrestle listeners said hello.
Okay.
Brian Alvarez would write, Cole spent the first 5 minutes giving stats about both guys. I think the idea is that they figure this will make it look like Cole has a clue, but he comes across like he's reading it off a paper prepared for him, which he is, of course. And thus, in some way, he comes off as having even less of a clue. I guess maybe if he retains some of this knowledge, he'll be better off for it. That's his criticism of Michael Cole, and I've always found criticisms of Michael Cole to be a little unfair. It's not like it's the old days where you said, all right, guys, just call what you see on the monitor. He's being produced in a major way and being told essentially what to say. I'm not going to say scripted exactly, but certainly he's got an ear in his voice and a guiding hand here. But Michael Cole left to just call wrestling. Does a great job calling matches, but that's not always what that job, for the WWE at least, requires, right?
Michael does do a great job and always has. It's what's called for at the time, and some play-by-play people like to deluge you with facts and let you know how smart they are and everything that they know, even though someone else did the research for them. And, you know, that's some of the guidance that Michael was given at the time. Not always right, not always wrong, but, you know, Michael's great at doing what he is asked to do. And Michael also is one of those talents that doesn't need to be told what to do all the time either. And he is probably the most underrated and underappreciated play-by-play guy in the business.
I agree. He gets a bad rap. Let's talk about this match, though, with Booker T and Christian. Brian would write, Booker made his big comeback and ran wild. Half the crowd booed when he signaled for the spin-a-rooney, and the announcers noted that there were a lot of peeps in the crowd. Christian got several near falls using the ropes and such, and every time Booker kicked out, they booed. It wasn't overwhelming, though, as Booker did have his fans. So anyway, all of a sudden, Booker T hit the axe kick off the top, and I thought, geez, that's an awfully big move for Christian to kick out of. But then all of a sudden, the ref counted 3, and Christian had not kicked out. He lost. Who the fuck is booking this show? We're 2 for 2 in completely incomprehensible finishes. 2 and a quarter.
Why is that incomprehensible?
I think he means because it feels like Christian's got some momentum, but he doesn't pick up the win. Instead, Booker T does.
Well, some people might say Booker's got the momentum. Again, that's a matter of opinion. Just because this Yahoo likes Christian better, I disagree with that. Couldn't disagree with that more.
What'd you think of the match?
I like the match. I think because I like both guys, and I thought that they had a hell of a match. Frankly,
Next up,
bother me. What bothers me is that comment.
Right.
Who the fuck is writing this shit?
Brian Alvarez.
Yeah. Figures.
We know how you feel about Dave Meltzer. How do you feel about Brian Alvarez?
Boy, lower than Meltzer.
What?
Yeah.
Huh. I wouldn't have guessed that.
How do you feel about him?
Chris Benoit is going to take on Orlando Jordan for the U.S. title. And Brian would write, well, if the rest of the show is any indication, Benoit is losing for sure, and I will kill myself. Benoit has had a huge bandage on his back of his neck for like 2 weeks now, and someone at a house show said it looked like something had been scooped out of his neck. Not sure what the deal was. Anyway, it fell off really early, and sure enough, there's a hole in his neck. Yuck. Benoit beat this young man nearly senseless. He did everything he could, but Orlando sucks. All I could think was, this man is U.S. champion. Why? No one can give me a good answer. And I'm not just talking about the guys in the room with me. I'm talking about the world. Cole pointed out that the spinning neck breaker works on the neck. Benoit then hit a big superplex that caused everyone in the room with me to scream, and then made his big comeback. He hit the rolling Germans and the headbutt. But Orlando Jordan kicked out of these moves. Come on, dude. Seriously. Orlando undid a corner pad and Benoit bonked into it, leading to the pin. Orlando Jordan pinned Chris fucking Benoit. I cannot believe what I've seen so far. He says, oh my gosh, someone really has a grudge against WCW, even in 2005 when it's long since dead and buried and WWE owns all the assets. Fucking idiot, dipshit, moron, stupid ass, motherfucking bookers.
And this comes from the little indie wannabe guy.
Brian Alvarez is the author of this write-up. Yes, sir.
Yeah, the little indie wannabe guy.
Well, he has a newsletter and a radio show and a subscription site.
Newsletter where he makes up stuff. Yeah, okay. I'm not even going to respond to it.
Well, what do you think of the match and the decision to have Orlando fucking Jordan pin Chris fucking Benoit?
I thought Chris got Orlando through a hell of a match. And, Orlando was someone that we were looking to try and do something with. And by doing something with him, you need him to get over. And Chris was willing to do that. And that was something that Chris wanted to do. So to the people that don't know, don't understand, and people like the little fellow writing it, that's, yeah.
All right.
I got blood pressure issues, right?
Did it help when I said fucking idiot, dipshit, moron, stupid ass, motherfucking bookers?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the fucking idiot, dipshit, moron, stupid ass dirt sheet writers that make shit up and just lie and get away with it because for whatever reason they,
I got to tell you,
they have credibility.
I do see. I would have picked Eminem to win the first match. They didn't. I would have picked Christian to win the second match. He didn't. I would have picked Chris Benoit to win the third match. He didn't. Is some of the booking here just thinking we can't just make it blatantly obvious what we're doing. We've got to give them some sort of surprise. We got to give them a reason to come back.
Well, God forbid we tell a story.
Okay. I'm not upset. Don't get hot. It feels like you're about 3/4 hot now.
Yeah, I'm there.
Oh,
I'm
wait.
6/8 hot.
Oh shit, fire. Well, let's talk about Undertaker Muhammad Hassan. They kill him. He's dead. The character can't be on TV, so of course he's dead. There's a hole in the stage. Power bombs him into it. We assume, we hope there's safety mats underneath. We know that the man who played the character is not actually deceased, but Lord, his character is. This is the end of Muhammad Hassan, 2.25 stars. This is essentially a mercy killing, is it not? I mean, it can't happen. So adios.
You got to do something with them. I mean, it is what it is. And write the character off and can't be on TV. Well, you know the rest.
Help me understand. Yeah, of course we do. There's a spot in the match where even though the piano wire is what got him in trouble, one of the sympathizers is going to choke out the Undertaker with piano wire even here. Brian would call that.
Hey, hang on. I'm sorry. I got to take this real quick. Hold on. I'm doing a podcast and blaming you for shit.
So we're back at it here. Talk to me a little bit about one of the sympathizers choking out the Undertaker with said piano wire. This is what got us in trouble. And your boy Brian would write, "Nice, one more hearty fuck you from Vince McMahon to all of you in the UK who watch this live." Your response?
From a ill-informed, unintelligent, yeah, he's an idiot. That's my response. He's an idiot.
Next up,
Yeah,
we've got the
for those that would even believe that, just speaks to their stupidity.
we've got the BWO here taking on the Mexicools. BWO come out on big wheels. I guess here Hollywood Nova and Simon Dean are different people completely. And yeah, we got Simon Dean, the former Simon Dean, and Hollywood Nova. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I got nothing. Yeah, I got absolutely nothing. Look, you can't bat, what is it, 500 all the time, or do you bat 1,000?
You bat 1,000.
Good?
If you're a 300 average, you're first ballot Hall of Famer. But 1,000's is as good as it gets. It's perfection. And
Okay, well, I can't bat 1,000 all the time.
Okay. Your boy would write, the Mexicools versus 3 cartoons did not work. Simon Dean worked the whole match until Stevie got the hot tag. Hoovy missed a plancha and was selling the right knee. Don't know if that's good or bad. The guys in Mexico do work on the right instead of the left. Meanie never even got in the ring before Hoovy pinned Stevie with the Tijuana Jam. A nothing match really, but at least the right team won. Star and a quarter. Yeah, Mexicools go over. This is the end of the BWO. And I guess we're giving the actual signed tag team a win here instead of the one-off BWO.
Yep.
All right, here we go.
Not good. That's one of those where you look at and you kind of look at 15 years later and go, ugh.
Ray versus Eddie. This is a hell of a match. It's a little silly, and it's cool that we get to see Dominic now 15 years later. But both of these guys are just so fucking good. If you're going to watch one match on this card, this is it. I absolutely loved their pay-per-view match back in 97. And this is not the same couple of performers, but they give you a different match and it's tremendous. Now there are some light, let's go Eddie chants, and Dominic is sitting ringside here looking concerned. They're doing the 619. There's lots of near falls, multiple suplexes, lots of great facial work where Eddie's staring at Dominic. And then Ray is going to lay there dead and eat the frog splash. Eddie's going to point to Dominic, sneer, and then lay across him for the pin. But Ray crucifixes him and gets the pin himself. Pretty cool finish. 4 stars. I really like to make fun of the story behind this and criticize it. But Lord, once the bell rang, this is the opposite of when you say, and then the bell rang. Because here, and then the bell rang, these guys were on top of the fucking world.
Magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. Ray and Eddie doing what they do best, and that was tearing the house down. And again, the story was excellent, and the fact people still remember it today speaks to how good it was. And to that, it is what it is, and it is the best match on the card.
Next up, we've got Tori.
Would have been 42 stars in Tokyo Dome or Arena, Mexico. What?
Let's not. Tori and Molina are going to be in a bra and panty match. Candice Michelle's the referee. What'd you think of this?
Well, I think that Tori was probably one of the best female talent that we had from a crossover standpoint, and positively beautiful, athletic, and she came from the fitness world. but also just the great positive attitude. And, all three, Molina, look, she's not the most popular person in the world, and she wasn't then, but she busted her ass. And they weren't wrestlers. They weren't trained to be wrestlers from the very beginning. And they all went out and did their part. And it was, again, a different time. Not going to see any of that, happening in today's day and time. But it was, again, when you look back and in a sign of the times, it's like looking through some of the stuff from the 1930s and 1940s, and you go, oh my God, how did they do that? Times change, and we all learn and we all grow, and it's just a sign of the times that as you look back, and it was different.
Well, I'll tell you, Tori takes a hell of a bump on the outside here, and Brian would even write, match was way better than it had any right to be, and Tori in particular was working her ass off. Well, her hubby did just get fired, and she isn't exactly a regular character these days. And then I learned the other lesson. She was booked to lose. Of course, after the match, Candace stripped Molina down and celebrated with Tori, and then she stripped down and everyone said yay. Those are some hot mamas, but I really have no desire to see Candace versus Molina at the pay-per-view. I mean, I guess I understand, you think, hey, well, we need to serve the audience that wants to see scantily clad, good, beautiful women, but it's, yeah, this is what you would call a let me up match, right? I mean, cause you don't want anything to follow Ray and Eddie, and you still got a world title match. So let's throw the ladies in there and give them something different. Cause
it's a variety show.
Yeah. Let's get to our main event. It's Big Dave Batista taking on JBL for the world title. JBL's going to come to the ring in a motorcade, tons of confetti falling from the ceiling. And, they get plenty of time here. The match is maybe, I don't know, less than awesome. And your man would say, this was like the longest sleeper spot in WWE history. Dave finally fought free and hit a big back suplex. Crowd, however, was still sleeping. When they woke up, they were grumpy. After a show this bad, a great main event was needed, and this was not that great main event. Dave snapped and beat on him in the crowd. Taz said the ref was allowing a lot of leeway because he knew what was at stake. Yep, DQ's a coming. Ref takes a bump and Orlando wallops Dave with a chair shot to the back. The ref wakes up, but Dave kicks out. This is a no-win situation, Craig noted, since the winner has to wrestle the Undertaker. He's got a point there. JBL hit the clothesline from hell, but the ref was busy trying to get his earpiece back in. Really, the crowd is comatose here. Orlando hit the ring again and got backdropped to the outside. My God, please end this already. Batista hit the sidewalk slam. Then Orlando hit the ring again. He had a chair, but Dave confiscated it and hit both guys. And of course, the ref woke right up for the DQ. What a poetic ending to this shit fest. Dave destroyed both men with chair shots afterwards. Thanks for coming. Please drive safely. 2 stars. I don't always love the way Brian writes up matches, and I know you don't. But this was
I don't love anything about Brian Alvarez.
This was not a great match. This was a styles clash. Is this one of those deals where it looks good on paper, but then they just don't mesh? Or is it we're just over convoluted with the finish? We've got too much gaga. Why didn't this work? It feels like a really weak ass finish, especially following what we just saw with Ray and Eddie, which had sort of a flimsy story. And I know you love the story, but I didn't. But goddamn, the match was so good. And then you get here and you're like, well, they told a pretty good story. And then the bell rang, as you say, and it's just, I don't know. It was a miss for me. What say you?
It wasn't the greatest, and it was a clash of styles, and it just didn't gel, really. And I think sometimes when you're not going to have it gel, there is a tendency to dress it up as much as you can with everything that you can. You live and you learn, and that's kind of where we ended up on this. So the story was there, but I don't think that they got better. Look, they definitely found their rhythm and found that sweet spot with one another. But this one was clearly a little clunky, and you could tell it was a feeling out period. So not the best, but I didn't think it was that terrible by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, we've got a great show coming up for you next week, but first we're going to get to your questions. I do want to remind you that next week, though, we're getting way back in the Wayback Machine. How about Saturday night's main event 27? This one went down on July 28th, 1990. Such fun stuff here. It's in Omaha, Nebraska. Vince McMahon and Jesse Ventura are on the call. The Ultimate Warrior is going to defend his world title against Ravishing Rick Rude. We've got some cool tribute videos about Hulk's glory days and his injury at the hand of the earthquake. We've got Demolition working with the Rockers for the World Tag Team Championship. We've got Tito Santana working with Mr. Perfect for the WWF Intercontinental Championship. And we've also got the Texas Tornado here working with Buddy Rose. That's right. Playboy Buddy Rose is here. And of course, we really start cooking with gas with the Ultimate Warrior and Rick Rude and some promos that really sets the pace for SummerSlam and the main event being inside of the big blue steel cage. I'm at the height of my fandom, Bruce. I cannot fucking wait to talk about the WWF and Saturday night's main event from July of 1990.
Not even knowing that we were going to do this, because you know how I pay attention sometimes.
Sure.
I just watched this the other day, and I can't wait to talk about it. Rick Rude. Oh my God.
How do you got all this fucking free time where you're digging through boxes in your basement and watching old Saturday night's main event? But you
I multitask.
Why don't you fucking watch that shit with the sound down and talk about some old wrestling with me, you rat soup eating motherfucker?
How do you know that's not what I'm doing right now?
Okay, that's fair. Let's get to some questions here. A friend of the show, Rajiv, wants to know, why was putting Heidenreich with Animal a hope that this pairing would bring some person?
What was his name?
Rajiv.
Can you spell it for me?
Rajiv. He's one of our big supporters over at adfreeshows.com. I know you pay very little attention there, but
I would hang on. I'm pretty sure you got that right, but I was thinking that was one of those names that you were trying to Southern pronounce.
You're a motherfucker.
You know how we do.
You know,
I'm Southern, and I do the same thing.
All right.
I look at it, and I think, I know it's probably not supposed to sound like this, but I'm just going to say it like it's spelt. And yeah, that'll get you in trouble sometimes. Nothing wrong with it. Be proud to be Southern.
Couple questions here. Was the real reason you put Heidenreich with LOD that you could get some personality out of Heidenreich? I mean, it really does feel like he's notable for three things. This is not Rajiv. This is me. Fucking Michael Cole against his will, being a terrible member of another failed reboot of Legion of Doom, and wrestling Doink the Clown at a Golden Corral. The Alabama Doink at a Golden Corral. That's what I know Heidenreich for. Is this more about giving him something to do? Chat me up.
Yes, it is. And it was just trying to add a little bit more dimension to him and hopefully give the audience a reason to care.
Interesting follow-up, though. Why not just start him here with the shoulder pads and face paint? It's the main part of the Road Warrior LOD presentation. Is it because this was a tribute match and they felt like it wouldn't be the right time or the right, tact?
I think more than anything, it was a feeling out process and just same type of thing, man. Let's see where this goes. Let's see how the audience reacts to it, and baby steps.
Ken wants to know, what was more regrettable, the Mexicools on lawnmowers or Kerwin White's catchphrase, if it ain't white, it ain't right? Of course, that's when you guys had, I even kind of forgot about that Chavo would become like a preppy golfer. You guys are doing some interesting stuff here in this era, to say the least. That's the most polite way to say it, right?
Yeah, to say the least. We'll leave it at that.
Mayhem wants to know, what does Vince say, or how does he respond when he's pressured by a sponsor or a network to do something that he might not agree with? Of course, this is born out of the whole Muhammad Hassan controversy leading into this show. What was Vince's reaction to that then, and would it be different now, do you think?
Well, I think that at the time with the network, it was bad timing and it was unfortunate, but you had to make a move. That was something that I don't think anybody would have wanted. So you had to make a move and you adjust.
Charlie Thrower wants to know, not complaining at all, but why was Tori Wilson used on both the 04 and 05 promotional poster? Just to catch you up what we're talking about here, the Great American Bash in both 04 and 05 features Tori Wilson. And one of the responses is, well, Vince probably classified her as the All-American Girl. Is that it? Vince just thought she had the All-American, or someone in promotions thought,
probably coincidence more than anything, but I think that Tori Wilson would be a great, representation of the Great American Bash anytime. So yeah, she does look like an All-American Girl and extremely attractive, and why not?
Brian Wiseman wants to know, I know how to get a John Deere riding mower, but I haven't yet been able to find a Juan Deere riding mower. Do you remember where you guys got yours from?
Yeah, riding mowers, riding lawnmower, Ron, whatever the fuck you said, are us. It's in the phone book.
Adam Leeson wants to know, how underrated is Joey Mercury? Of course, he's part of the Eminem tag team. I do think Joey Mercury was one of those guys who was maybe born 10 years too soon. I mean, he was a tremendous wrestler, bell to bell.
Yes, he was. And had he, been 6 inches taller, as the saying goes, he probably would have had a much different career trajectory. But I think that Joey was one of those talents that could do anything.
Here's an interesting question. And I don't know that we'll have another chance to fit this in, but it's awfully topical right now. Ross wants to know, you've mentioned that Vince has been a longtime Redskins fans. Do you know if he has an opinion on them changing the name of the team? It just came out as you and I are recording this earlier today that it's just going to be known as, at least for now, the Washington Football Team.
I like that. It's original.
I mean,
I don't. I have not discussed it with him, and God knows. No, I haven't.
Paul wants to know, with all he's accomplished both in and out of the ring, I have to ask, how big's Batista's legacy?
Well, Dave's a Hall of Famer. There you go.
Carl wants to know, audiences change over time and their taste do as well. What match from this card do you feel 15 years later should be rewatched because it holds up the test of time? I mean, it's got to be Ray. Yeah, it's got to be Eddie. Phil Snowden has a challenging question for you, because I know you're going to struggle to give me a real answer, because that's just how you roll. What was Bruce's favorite bra and panties match?
The last one.
It was time for it to go away.
I think it was.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. At the time, I don't think anybody really, or I didn't really think much of it, but now it would come off like, wait a minute, what are we doing? It's just weird how much all of that has changed. You knew we were going to get a bunch of these questions. Jono wants to know, what did Bruce think of Hollywood Nova / Simon Dean? It's been written that he had an attitude problem. And of course we know that he's done some shoot interviews where he was not too polite to you. What did you think of Hollywood Nova and or Simon Dean? Either one of those characters. You don't have to answer about the man.
And I'm really not saying this to be mean or to, anything else, but which it always confused me. I never really had that much interaction with him one way or the other. So I don't know where his feelings come from. Mine are indifferent from the standpoint of I didn't deal with him enough to really have an opinion.
Tons of questions like this. This one from Troy. He says, WCW had some great, well-known pay-per-view brand names. Obviously, Great American Bash was one of them. But with that same name recognition, why haven't we seen more? Starrcade, perhaps the best known, was only really used for house shows, and we've never seen a Slamboree or a Halloween Havoc. Do you know if there was ever a push for a Halloween Havoc to bring that brand back? Because it was one of the marquee events for WCW.
Well, I'll tell you, this is crazy, but one of the suggestions early on for an October event was a Halloween event, and one of the names, and I'm going back to before we had like monthly pay-per-views and things of that nature, was to do a Halloween show. One of the names was Halloween Havoc. That always just struck me funny that WCW ended up doing it a few years after that. But this had to be the second, no, it had to be the third. It had to be the third Survivor Series where we're talking about what other things, can we do pay-per-views around, and Halloween was one of them because it was looking at a weekend, not doing it on Halloween night. No, because that'd be horrible and not good to do. But what if we did it the weekend of, and you had for example, Halloween being the Friday and you had it the Sunday before type thing, Halloween Havoc. But I think it was a great name, and just, I don't know, for whatever reason, never really did it. Halloween doesn't translate worldwide, and it's
that's interesting.
Great American Bash doesn't translate worldwide.
That's a great point.
So those names are something that you have to consider that when you're looking at a global territory and being able to look at what you can sell. You can't sell a Great American Bash all over the world, and you can't sell a Halloween Havoc because they don't know what it is. So that's, I know for Halloween that was it. Great American Bash, hey, we've done them tried to do them around 4th of July and things like that. But the reason it hasn't stuck is because it's a tough sell globally.
Well, that's great insight, and that's going to get clicks everywhere. So everybody link the podcast when that goes viral. Evaldo wants to know, can Bruce confirm if the original plan for Hassan was for him to go over Taker and beat Batista at SummerSlam? I've always heard that rumor over the years. And I think the person behind the character, Muhammad Hassan, has laid out that that's what he believed was going to happen too. He would beat the Undertaker and then win the world title at SummerSlam and have a run as a heel champion, get some more heat, have babies chasing. I mean, that's old school wrestling. Do you remember that being a preliminary idea?
I remember having talks of, hey, what could happen? But no, not this is definitely what's going to happen. No.
It's such a fascinating character. I hope that folks go check it out and listen to our old episode about him. Harry wants to know, was there ever a discussion about JBL possibly winning against Batista, or do they think it would be too soon to take the belt off of him?
Too soon. Way too soon.
Gurnick wants to know, why was Muhammad Hassan not just moved back to Raw? If UPN wouldn't allow him on their station, you still had the opportunity for USA, or did Vince ultimately think that the heat was too great and it was best to just do away?
I think that stink would have stayed on him.
Rory wants to know, was there ever any thought to bringing back Paul Ellering to manage the quote-unquote new Legion of Doom?
That would be no.
What about that fucking puppet? Why didn't y'all get that?
Hey, Rocco was over.
Can you believe that they're making a Paul Ellering action figure right now with a Rocco dummy?
And it will sell like crazy, I'm sure.
Dude, I mean, I don't even collect action figures, but I kind of want that shit just to put on my shelf.
Who doesn't?
No one will know what it is. It's tremendous.
It's not true. Everybody knows Rocco.
Taryn wants to know, where in the world did John Bradshaw Layfield get that American outfit?
American Outfits Are Us.
Boy, I like when you I don't even have to have you for the show anymore at this point. What I can do is I can just have sound bites, and I can have
and then you can hear me saying American Outfits Are Us. And you put that shit together, it'll be like fucking magic.
It's possible. And I'll be honest, it's magic that we got this show done in time with all that you got going on. We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to make it happen. We're working hard to entertain you guys. Hope you're digging what we're doing. We're also going to be cranking out some bonus content for you. You can get shows like this early and ad-free over at adfreeshows.com. Coming up, we plan to watch some old school Global. We've got a bonus show with Jacques Rougeau, and of course a bonus episode on Miss Elizabeth. Stay tuned. We've also got SummerSlam 1992 and the Texas Tornado. So much great exclusive content coming to adfreeshows.com. But next week, you'll get that very special, at least to me, July 28th, 1990, Saturday night's main event. I love the Ultimate Warrior working with Rick Rude. I love SummerSlam 1990. A little tribute video to Hulk Hogan. I'm at the height of my fandom. I hope you're as excited as I am. You can hear that show early and ad-free over at adfreeshows.com. If you've got a question about that show, you can ask it right now at Prichard Show on Twitter. He is at Bruce Prichard, and I am at Hey, it's Conrad, and we are out of time. Until next week, we'll see you right here on Something to Wrestle with Bruce Prichard.
Rock on.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.